This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Israeli occupation forces carried out an incursion this morning in eastern Beit Hanun in northern Gaza, killing 2 members of Al-Qassam Brigades, Hamas's military wing.
نعم بذلك توفيق يرتفع عدد الشهداء في غزة.
This raises the number of martyrs in Gaza to 11 over the past 24 hours. Hundreds of Palestinians in Khan Yunis held a funeral procession for yesterday's martyrs and chanted slogans demanding vengeance.
Crying and mourning the loss of martyrs has become a regular part of life in Gaza. Special Israeli occupation forces carried out an incursion this morning in eastern Beit Hanun in northern Gaza, killing Ahmed and Muhammad al-Kafarna. The two were members of Al-Qassam Brigades, Hamas's military wing. The Palestinian leadership condemned the consecutive Israeli military operations and said that they will bring about nothing but more violence.
We absolutely condemn this Israeli military escalation in Gaza and Nablus. This shows that the Israeli government does not want to fulfill its obligation in the peace process. They are trying to escape what was agreed upon in Annapolis.
Many political observers consider the ongoing Israeli military operation in Gaza as an Israeli attempt to preempt all Palestinian peace initiatives. Martyrs fall in Gaza every day due to the Israeli raids and incursions. The family of Fayyad, who lost 5 family members, can no longer bear the feelings of sadness. A spokesman from the ousted Palestinian government in Gaza said that the Israeli government is taking desperate measures to end the resistance and resilience.
They want to force us to surrender and accept what they tried to impose on us in the Annapolis conference. They want to guarantee Israel's security without giving up land and holy places while they continue building settlements. They do not want to give the Palestinians anything but promises and illusions.
This was in revenge for Palestinian martyrs in Gaza and the West Bank.
In an unprecedented step, the martyr Jihad Jibril Brigades, the military wing for the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine Central Command, declared responsibility for launching an advanced missile towards Ascalon. Israel considered this a serious threat to the residents of its towns. Samir Abu Shammala, Al Jazeera, Gaza, Palestine.
وفي الضفة الغربية واصلت قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي عملياتها العسكرية في مدينة نابلس لليوم.
The Israeli occupation forces continued their military operations in Nablus for the 2nd consecutive day. An Al Jazeera correspondent quoted medical sources saying that 10 people were injured in the past hours, including a child who was injured by a bullet in the head. More than 25 Palestinians were martyred, including members from Al-Aqsa brigades. The Israeli occupation forces isolated the western parts in Nablus from the northern parts and imposed a curfew in the area that it has entered. Joining us from Nablus city in the West Bank is our correspondent Shireen Abu Akla. Shireen, has the situation changed in Nablus?
ومع من مدينة نابلس في الضفة الغربية مراسلتنا شيرين أبو عقل. شيرين، المشهد ما زال كما كان عليه.
The situation has not changed. As we said at an earlier time, the Israeli occupation forces expanded their military operations and spread to the center of the city, as well as to the northern areas. This is one of the main streets in Nablus. It has been closed by the large number of soldiers that the Israeli army has deployed here. The Israeli occupation forces have imposed a curfew. Once in a while, some citizens try to go to hospitals to transport injured people or to buy food, but the occupation forces do not allow them to move from one area to the other. There were intense clashes between young Palestinians who threw stones and the occupation forces who used live bullets and tear gas. Some members from the Palestinian rescue team have been trying to reach some homes, but the Israeli occupation army does not allow them to pass, as we can see. One vehicle was transporting oxygen canisters to a hospital, but it was not allowed to pass. The atmosphere is very tense. The Israeli occupation forces continue the raids and search operations, especially in the center of Nablus and the Old City. The Israeli army has refused to disclose the number of Palestinian citizens that have been arrested. However, the Palestinian side said that 25 people were arrested. The Israeli side said that only 3 people were arrested, but they refused to disclose how many soldiers were arrested in total. The Israeli forces also said that the objective of the military operation is to foil Palestinian attempts to carry out operations inside Israel. They said that they have acquired intelligence that some Palestinians were trying to carry out operations inside Israel. The Israeli army has found 2 missiles that were in the process of development, which shows that missile technology has been transported from Gaza to the West Bank. The Palestinian side, however, says that the Israeli army only found 2 empty pipes painted white and that they were not prepared to be launched. This is what has been happening in Nablus. The Israeli army still refuses to say whether this military operation is about to end or if it will continue for days.
شكرا جزيلا لك شيرين أبو عقل من نابلس. شكرا لك.
Pilgrims to the Holy Land of Mecca return to their homes, celebrating the completion of one of the most important religious rites. All except for the pilgrims from Gaza, who had an extra rite to fulfill, but not a religious one. They were stranded for many days at the city of Al-Iraqiya before being allowed to pass due to the intervention of various sides. Ahmad Bagatu reports.
More than 2,000 Palestinian pilgrims were stranded in Al-Arish area on their way back from the Hajj. They wanted to go back the way that they came, through the Rafah crossing, and not through the Israeli-controlled Karma Abu Salim crossing. The Rafah crossing is governed by an international agreement which prohibits Egypt from opening it on its own. Opening the crossing requires the presence of 3 inspectors, one from Egypt, another from the Palestinian Authority, and a third from Europe. There was no European inspector present.
The main concern in this agreement is in regards to security, which still poses a problem. The agreement was set up this way, and the change in conditions does not allow Egypt to work independently.
The Egyptian authority provided lodging, food, and medical assistance to the pilgrims who came from the Nuweiba port to the city of El-Arish. The pilgrims' predicament was strongly apparent in Mubarak's meetings, particularly with French President Sarkozy and the Palestinian President Abu Mazen. Abu Mazen presented a proposal to turn over the crossing to the representatives from the Palestinian Authority, but was rejected.
They do a good job directing the blame and false accusations onto us. We are trying to solve things in ways that avoid problems. We do not want anyone to drag us into trouble. We want to solve the problem. The Palestinians are our brothers, and we want to find a solution for them.
We presented our proposal as you heard in our speech. We stated our opinion, and the preliminary reactions we got from Hamas were not encouraging. But we hope that they see reason, so that we can start getting positive responses.
Egypt opened the crossing after a few days, which was observed by some as a potentially critical step in an already tense Egyptian-Israeli relationship.
I think it could cause tension or even a crisis, especially since it comes during a restless time, with the tunnels and the pilgrims passing.
The pilgrims returned to Gaza, their suffering ameliorated by their completion of the Hajj, a wish fulfilled in spite of all the difficulty. The harder the work, the greater the reward. After less than a week, the problem of the Palestinian pilgrims in Al-Iraqiya ended. They were finally able to go through Gaza through the Rafah crossing. But according to observers, this crisis is likely to recur due to the inter-Palestinian conflict. Ahmed Baghoutou, Al-Arabiya, Cairo.
أحمد بجاتو العربية القاهرة.
This was the political angle, but what about the human angle? Hanan al-Masri visited one of the stranded pilgrims and listened to his story.
After over a week of waiting, coffee and sweets were served in this home in celebration of the pilgrim's return. The pilgrim Maher Salim and his wife were amongst the 2,000-plus stranded pilgrims. Their departure to the Hajj over a month ago came as a surprise with the opening of the Rafah crossing, which has been closed for over a year and a half. Opening the crossing made it seem like Egypt was challenging the crossing agreement. The agreement requires a European official to open the pass, but none were present. The pilgrims made several stops from Rafah crossing to Nuwaybi port in Egypt, Aqaba in Jordan, and finally the Blessed Mecca. The journey took 4 days.
The problem was when we were coming back. There was a communication between the Egyptian, Palestinian, and Jordanian authorities before they let us board the ferry. But then we ended up staying on the ferry for 3 days.
Like other pilgrims, the pilgrim Mazen was surprised by Egypt's request that the pilgrims return to Gaza from any other crossing, which meant they might have to pass through Israeli-controlled crossings. The pilgrims refused.
We explained to them that the Israeli authorities might arrest me because of my brother or my mother, for example. They might arrest an old man because of his son in order to pressure him. They understood our point of view.
Israel tried to keep the crossing closed, denying Egypt's right to open it. They also claimed that some of the pilgrims were wanted for security reasons.
Our situation was a humanitarian issue. They carried the burden of 2,300 pilgrims. So what if some of us were members in the Legislative Council? Does that mean they're criminals? They were elected by the people. There was really no reason for what happened. We are simply pilgrims traveling to the house of God.
The days of waiting weighed heavily as the concern increased, making minutes seem like years.
Nothing was easy, and the conditions were also difficult. It was cold and there was no water. They tried to set things up as much as they could, but they did not provide a place for people to rest.
For the majority of the pilgrims from Gaza, the story of suffering ended with this kind of joy. Hanan al-Masri, Al-Arabiya, Gaza.
Hanan al-Masri, Al-Arabiya, Gaza.
On to the peace process, and in his surprise visit to Amman yesterday, Prime Minister Ehud Olmert discussed with Jordan's King Abdullah II details of the most sensitive core issues facing Israel and the Palestinians, including the right of return of Palestinian refugees and the redivision of Jerusalem. The Jordanian monarch cautioned that a stalled peace process threatens the future, security, and stability of the entire region. Abdullah said that all parties must honor their commitments to a specific timeline for a comprehensive settlement of the Arab-Israeli conflict. The king also repeated Jordanian opposition to Israeli plans for building across the Green Line, charging that such plans run counter to agreements reached at the Annapolis conference. For his part, Prime Minister Olmert expressed his willingness to move forward in negotiations with the Palestinians and with the aim of reaching a permanent settlement. Olmert stressed, however, that the Palestinians must take effective action against terrorism. The Prime Minister reiterated Israel's commitment to not build settlements nor appropriate Palestinian land. And meanwhile, the White House has announced detailed plans regarding the upcoming visit of U.S. President George W. Bush to the Middle East in his bid to promote the peace process between Israel and the Palestinians. Bush leaves Tuesday on a journey including stops in several countries, including Israel, the West Bank, Bahrain, the the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. The White House announced that there will not be a trilateral meeting between Bush, Olmert, and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, but rather the president will travel to Ramallah for one-on-one talks with the Palestinian leader.
Tuesday, January 8th, President Bush will travel to Israel, the West Bank. The trip follows the Annapolis meeting and offers an opportunity for the president to discuss with Israelis and Palestinians their efforts toward a negotiated peace and achievement of the president's vision of two democratic states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. The president has been working fairly consistently over 7 years to put in place the building blocks of what now offers an opportunity for peace.
In related news, the Palestinian Authority has rejected a proposal from European officials designed to solve the problem of Palestinians living in overcrowded refugee camps for the past 60 years. According to the Arabic newspaper Al-Quds Al-Arabi, the officials offer to compensate the refugees financially if they, in turn, would be willing to relinquish their intentions to return to the now Israeli towns and villages from which they fled in 1948. The plan proposed that the refugees be resettled in the Arab countries where they now reside, as well as in those Western countries allowing them to immigrate. According to Al-Quds, the European offer has also been rejected by Arab nations.
Due to the American policies in Lebanon, the country has entered the unknown. This comes at a time when the Lebanese were hoping that the next president will be elected in the next parliamentary session. More details from our reporter in Beirut.
The Lebanese are still suffering from the curse of the presidential deadlock. It seems that they have not been blessed with reaching an agreement. No one knows when this will happen due to the American decision to prevent the Lebanese from reaching an agreement. This was especially evident when the U.S. derailed the French efforts that were aimed at ending the presidential deadlock. Syria decided to stop cooperating with France because it failed to convince the Lebanese to accept the solution that was agreed upon between France and Syria.
The United States did not give a green light to the French initiative and their political maneuvers in Lebanon. The United States has been watching France very closely. Sarkozy held Syria responsible for the Lebanese crisis, but this is untrue. It is actually an attempt to evade the truth. Syria enjoys stability and peace of mind when Lebanon is stable and prosperous. Syria would be the first country to be harmed if Lebanon is unstable and insecure.
Due to the American policies in Lebanon, which were evident in their support to certain groups, the Lebanese are no longer sure that the next president will be elected in the next preliminary session, which is scheduled to take place on 12th of January.
It is certain that the vote will not be held in the next parliamentary session. Our economy is being destroyed, our shops are being closed, and our roads are being shut down. Enough is enough.
They will postpone the presidential elections just like they have been doing every time.
Why?
Because they have not been able to reach a solution. The country can't keep going like this. I'm speaking the truth. We must treat each other as equals so we can live together. Otherwise, we will not be able to reach a solution.
There will be no presidential elections and there will be no solution as long as the ruling majority and the March 14th coalition continue to bet on America and its policies. This is a kind of snobbery because they have been denying the opposition its right to participate in the political process in a fair way by having a veto power. If this does not happen, there will be no presidential elections. The people who managed to prevent the United States from achieving its objectives through the Israeli aggression on Lebanon in July 2006 will also not let the United States achieve its objectives by using the March 14th coalition.
Wherever the Lebanese go, they must understand that the solution can only be reached in Lebanon. The solution can only be reached through dialogue. Syria has been supporting the Lebanese dialogue, but the U.S. has been foiling it. The foiling of the French efforts is the best example of how the U.S. intends to derail the Lebanese from reaching a solution. Sana Alawiya, Syrian Arab Television, Beirut.
سناء علوية التلفزيون العربي السوري بيروت.
The UN peacekeeping force in Lebanon is on high alert after coming under fire in a recent audio message from Osama bin Laden. The Al-Qaeda leader labeled them crusader troops with a mission to protect the Jews. It's a message the UNIFIL force is taking very seriously, as Hoda reports.
They are not taking any chances, and they can't be too careful. The contingents comprising the United Nations peacekeeping force in South Lebanon have good cause for concern. Crusader troops is how Osama bin Laden described them. The Al-Qaeda leader claiming their mission is to protect the Jews in a tape released in December. The UN command is taking the recent threat seriously, especially since it wasn't the first time Al-Qaeda singled them out.
We adapt our security measures to the real situation and to the evaluation and assessment of the threats. So according to a number of routines we change, and one day can be one way and the second day it can be a little bit different.
Security measures were beefed up after a sophisticated car bombing struck a UN personnel carrier in June last year. 6 soldiers were killed. No group claimed responsibility, but Al-Qaeda's number 2, Ayman Zawahiri, praised the operation at the time. At the end of the 2006 summer war between Israel and Hezbollah, the UN mission was strengthened by the arrival of thousands of European troops, Italians, Spanish, and French. Al-Qaeda considers the United Nations an enemy, and these peacekeepers are soft targets. Whatever measures they take to minimize the risks, they won't be able to eliminate them. That is simply because they can't stay in their compounds. That would undermine their mission. And so they go about their routine, leaving their bases to patrol the villages under their area of operation. These armored vehicles provide little protection against the kind of car bomb that killed their colleagues.
If they do attack the UNIFIL as a weak point, they can hit morally and politically Hezbollah at the same time.
In bin Laden's message, he did criticize Hezbollah for allowing UN soldiers to deploy here. South Lebanon is their stronghold, and the mainly Shiite group views the Sunni group Al-Qaeda a threat. The UN's role is to ensure the area is weapons-free, and the volatile border with Israel remains calm. But security sources say they are working closely with Hezbollah, the group the mission is supposed to keep in check, in order to confront a common enemy. Zana Khadr, Al Jazeera, South Lebanon.
The police force in the blessed province of Karbala celebrated the graduation of 92 female police officers. The graduates expressed their commitment to participate fully in establishing security and stability in the country.
In Karbala, the first female police class graduated after completing the Al-Mujahidiyya Al-Arabiya course. The graduates included 92 out of 500 enlisted women. The head of the Karbala police confirmed the need for female police officers to aid in searches, especially since Karbala welcomes millions of visitors every year.
Today we celebrate the first graduating class of Al-Mujahidiyya Al-Arabiya course. 92 of our sisters in the police force will go out into the field after having learned fighting arts, screening of suspects, protocol with visitors, and human rights laws.
The female officers expressed their feelings about joining the police force. They believe that serving Iraq is the duty of all citizens, men and women.
We completed all our duties. We learned the fighting arts, dismantling weapons, and terrorist detection and control.
This is a pioneering experience for the Iraqi society. These 92 women are our first group of enlisted officers.
The Iraqi woman insists on playing a part in the revival of Iraq by helping to rebuild it and protect it from terrorists. It's not unusual to see women working as doctors, teachers, or employees. But seeing a woman running, performing drills, fighting, and raiding terrorist cells is somewhat unusual. But this is the way of the Iraqi woman. From the blessed Karbala, this is Ali Hussein Hamza, Al-Iraqiya.
Benazir Bhutto is assassinated in Pakistan. Lebanon loses 2 lawmakers in political assassinations. 2 governors get killed in Iraq. Is this a new phenomenon, or is it politics as usual? Answers to these questions and more in Link TV's Mosaic Intelligence Report.
A week has passed since the assassination of former Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, yet questions and speculations about her death are still being raised. Who killed Benazir Bhutto? How did she die? And could her death be prevented? Most recently, Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf said Bhutto took excessive risks.
And I conveyed this to her.
There is no complicity. Would I or the government be the maximum gainer from doing this? Or would there be someone else who would gain more?
Sadly, the truth is that her violent end could have been foretold with almost near certainty. For one thing, she did not have the military security and luck that have shielded General Pervez Musharraf from several assassination attempts. With some expense and planning, Benazir Bhutto too could have made better security arrangements, but faithfully, she seemed so driven to campaign relentlessly, even to be slowed down by the first attack on her life in Karachi in October, which resulted in 150 deaths. In truth, the real significance of this latest killing is that others are sure to follow in Pakistan and other parts of the Middle East. Let's take a look at the hard facts. Just a week before Bhutto's assassination, on the day of the festival of Eid al-Adha, a suicide bomber attacked a mosque in Sharsada district. The intended victim, the former Interior Minister Aftab Sherpaw, escaped unhurt, but the blast killed more than 50 people. Last October, Sherjan Mari, a prominent Pakistani politician of the ruling Pakistan Muslim League, was shot to death. I counted at least 5 other assassination attempts in Pakistan in 2007, and I'm certain I've missed a few. This phenomenon is, of course, not exclusive to Pakistan. In Lebanon, a spat of politically motivated assassinations has continued since the murder of former Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri in February 2005. Lebanon lost 2 lawmakers in political assassinations last year. MP Walid Eido was killed in a car bomb in Beirut along with his son Khalid and 8 others on June 13th. And MP Antoine Ghanem was assassinated in a bombing in Beirut's Christian neighborhood Sin al-Fil on September 19th. Not only politicians were targeted in Lebanon. Brigadier General Francois Al-Hajj, a senior commander in the Lebanese army, was killed in a bombing in Beirut suburb on December 12th. Hajj had been named a possible replacement for Army Commander Michel Suleiman, who is expected to be elected the next Lebanese president. Iraq also witnessed several assassinations in 2007. Brigadier General Qais al-Ma'mouri, Chief of Police of Babel Province, was killed on December 9th when 5 successive roadside bombs exploded, hitting his armored vehicle. Also, the governor of Al-Muthanna province, Muhammad Ali Husseini, was killed by a roadside bomb on August 20th. Al-Husseini was a member of the Supreme Islamic Iraqi Council, one of Iraq's main Shiite parties. He was the second governor of this powerful party to be killed within 10 days, and the list goes on. Politically motivated assassinations also occurred in Algeria, Afghanistan, Somalia, and other places in the region. The fact of the matter, political assassinations have become the favorite tool for eliminating the opposition in the Middle East and beyond. I'm Jamal Dajani for the Mosaic Intelligence Report. To learn more about this program or to share your thoughts, visit us at linktv.org/mosaic.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic Video Podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.